You seriously want me to believe you wouldn't be interested if I made a lot of money?
Dylan yelled. I felt a flare of anger. Are you actually suggesting I'm with you for your potential paycheck? I said. Dylan's eyes were a mix of frustration and something else I couldn't quite place.
It's not just about the money, Brooke. It's about how you don't seem to value it. Like, at all. I mean, you've always had everything handed to you, right?
Every relationship has its ups and downs, but if you're wondering how Dylan and I got to this point, we need to get back. But before we do, please subscribe to this channel and like the video. Let's hit the rewind button for a sec to paint you a better picture of my life before the whole Dylan drama unfolded. Picture this. I'm that girl who kind of lights up a room just by stumbling into it. Yeah, life handed me the easy pass, but I swear I'm not bragging. My biggest headaches? Choosing the perfect outfit for my epic birthday parties or cramming for a school project last minute. Total rich kid problems. I know. My parents? Absolute legends. They made sure I stayed down to earth, spreading kindness. And me, I'm all about chasing the next adventure, whether it's devouring the newest food craze or finding the city's hidden gems. At any party, I'm the life of it, making sure everyone's in on the fun. Now, onto the guy situation. Sure, I had my fair share of admirers, but no one really sparked my interest. It wasn't for lack of trying on their part, though. One day, I'm chilling at the school dance when Jake from history class decides it's his moment. He struts over, leans in, and goes, "Hey, Brooke, did you get injured when you fell from heaven?" I burst out laughing. Seriously, Jake? That's the best you've got? His face turns tomato red, but we end up laughing it off together. Cut to Chris, soccer team captain, thinking he'll dazzle me with his footwork. One day, he's like, "Watch this, Brooke," and aims to kick the ball straight to me. Only his aim's as off as my aunt's holiday sweater, and the ball ends up smashing a window. Instead of swooning, I'm dragging him to the principal's office to confess. My heart, not even a blip on the radar. So, yeah, the whole grand gesture thing, not for me. I was holding out for something real. Fast forward to a pretty ordinary day at school. I'm in the library, my head buried in a mountain of math problems, trying to make sense of numbers that seem to dance mockingly on the page. Just as I'm about to give up, Dylan walks over. He leans in, pointing at my paper.
"Hey, Brooke, you got the last problem wrong,"
he says, his tone matter of fact, eyes fixed on the equation as if it's the most interesting thing in the world. I blink, a mix of surprise and slight irritation bubbling up. "Oh, really? And you just happen to notice?" I reply, my words laced with a hint of skepticism. Dylan just nods, completely unfazed.
"Yeah, here, let me show you."
And just like that, he starts to explain where I went wrong, his fingers tracing the numbers and symbols with a precision that's almost mesmerizing. The way he breaks it down, it suddenly all makes sense. "Oh, I see it now. Thanks, Dylan," I say, genuinely grateful, but trying not to show too much enthusiasm. He just shrugs, a small smile playing on his lips.
"No problem, Brooke. Just didn't want you to lose points for a silly mistake."
And then he's off, leaving me staring after him, my earlier irritation placed with the flicker of something else. Over the next few weeks, Dylan and I bump into each other a few more times. It's always random, like in the hallway or at the library again, where he'd casually ask,
"Brooke, have you conquered the world of math yet?"
Each time, there's no flirting, no trying to impress, just genuine, easy conversation. It's refreshing, really. I find myself looking forward to these chance encounters, each one revealing a bit more of the real Dylan. He's different from the guys who have tried too hard to catch my attention with flashy gestures. With Dylan, what you see is what you get. And what I'm starting to see, well, let's just say it's definitely caught my interest. As the days rolled by, I found myself caught up in thoughts of Dylan more often than not. It was a slow realization, one that hit me out of nowhere. I found myself sharing these newfound feelings with my best friend Eva during one of our daily briefs. "So, you're into that nerdy Dylan?" Eva asked, her tone a mix of surprise and amusement. I simply nodded, a small smile playing on my lips. "Yeah, there's just something about him. He's so genuine." Then, one seemingly ordinary day in the cafeteria, Dylan made his way over to me. I could tell he was hesitating.
Hey, Brooke, can I talk to you for a second?
He asked. "Of course," I replied. Taking a deep breath, he finally blurted out,
I really like you, Brooke.
My heart skipped a beat. "Really?" was all I could manage, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, his eyes locking with mine.
I don't really have time to fall in love, and that's why I've kept it to myself. But I can't stop thinking about you, Brooke. It's something I've never felt before.
His words sent a wave of shock mixed with an undeniable joy through me. I like you too, Dylan, I confessed, my smile growing wider by the second. Fast forward a bit, and we started dating. It was all so new and exciting, and I wanted to make the most of it. One day, I pitched the idea of a little camping trip, envisioning us under the stars, away from the buzz of school life. But Dylan hesitated, his dedication to his studies casting a shadow over the plan.
I can't, Brooke. I really have to study,
he said, regret lacing his voice. I was disappointed, sure, but I understood. That's just who Dylan was. Committed, sincere, and focused. Our relationship was growing in its own unique way. Whenever I suggested we go somewhere, be it a quick bite to eat or a walk in the park, Dylan had his go-to response ready.
I can't, Brooke. I've got to study.
A few days passed, and my patience started wearing thin. I couldn't help but confront Dylan about it. How come we only ever meet at school? You never seem to want to hang out anywhere else, I pressed. It wasn't just about wanting to spend time together. It felt like I was living a dual life, with a boyfriend who seemed almost imaginary outside school. Dylan looked at me and took the time to sit me down and explain.
Brooke, I really need to focus on my studies right now, but I promise, once exams are over, we'll spend more time together.
His words were sincere, and with exams just around the corner, I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. After all, what was a little more waiting in the grand scheme of things? Exams came and went, and true to his word, Dylan planned a day out for us. It was wonderful, like a breath of fresh air in our routine. For a day, it felt like we were just any other couple, unburdened by the pressures of school and studies. But no sooner had that day ended, Dylan was back to his old ways, citing more studies and more exams on the horizon. I reached my breaking point. Why does it always come back to this? Don't you ever want to go out with me? My frustration was palpable. Dylan's response was calm but firm.
I have entrance exams, Brooke. I can't afford to waste time.
The words stung, making me feel like just another item on his long list of distractions. So I'm not an important part of your life? I asked, my voice tinged with hurt. He sighed.
It's not that, Brooke. Let me focus on my studies at the moment. We will definitely spend more time together in the future.
My best friend Eva, always the voice of reason, pointed out the obvious one day. This isn't normal, Brooke. He doesn't spend any time with you. That's not how relationships work. Her words, though hard to accept, rang true. Dylan's promises of later and in the future were starting to feel like a mirage in the desert of our relationship. Over time, I started to notice a shift in myself, a change that was subtle at first, but grew impossible to ignore. The girl who once thrived in the center of attention, who could light up a room with her laughter, was fading. I found myself more often low on energy. My once infectious infectious joy replaced by a lingering sadness. My friends noticed too, missing the old Brooke who dragged them on spontaneous adventures or cheer them up with ridiculous jokes. I decided it was time to confront Dylan, to lay bare the toll our relationship was taking on me. I found him at his usual spot in the library, buried in books. "Dylan, I can't take this anymore," I started, my voice trembling more than I'd intended. "You don't see how I have changed for the worse since meeting you?" He looked up, his expression one of surprise mixed with concern.
Brooke, you should understand. My mom is in so much debt, and I really have to study hard. The next 2 years, I can't waste time.
His words stung, not because of their truth, but because of what they implied about us. "Why did you start dating me if you wanted to spend all these years studying?" I pressed, the frustration and hurt boiling over. "Why did you start a relationship with me?" Dylan's response was a mixture of anger and desperation.
"I don't know, Brooke,"
he yelled, a rare outburst from him.
"You distract me,"
he admitted, his voice softer now. But the damage was done. Tears started to blur my vision, a mix of sadness and realization washing over me. Without another word, I turned and left, the finality of the moment weighing heavily on my heart. Later that day, we decided to break up. After Dylan and I broke up, everything felt off. I was really sad all the time, eating way too much junk food, especially chocolates, and crying during every romantic movie I watched. It was tough, and I just didn't feel like myself anymore. My parents noticed I was struggling. They saw me trying to cheer myself up with snacks and saw how upset I got over movies that used to make me happy. Seeing all this, they decided to help me get some therapy. With a therapist's help and lots of support from my parents, I slowly started to feel a bit better and more like myself again. It was during this time of healing that I met Alex. He was like a breath of fresh air, bringing laughter and lightness back into my life. With him, things felt right, and gradually, life started to feel normal again. Then, out of the blue, years later, Dylan called.
"I'm outside your home, Brooke. Can we talk?"
he said. Hesitant, I went outside to find him standing there, looking expectant.
"I told you I needed some time, so I'm all yours now. Can we start seeing each other again?"
he asked, as if no time had passed, as if nothing had changed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Is this a joke to you, Dylan?" I replied, frustration building. He pressed on, oblivious to my reaction.
"I know you're in a relationship, but deep down, you love me. I won't be distracted anymore. Plus, I make good money now,"
he said, as if trying to entice me with his newfound stability. "Do you really think I would be with you for money, Dylan?" I asked. He didn't back down, instead raising his voice.
"How would you know how to value money? You've had everything handed to you since you were born, Brooke."
His words, meant to wound, only pushed me further away. Then he became aggressive, and I could tell he didn't want to be, but he said,
"I feel so alone without you, and all I can think of is you, Brooke,"
while grabbing my hand and pushing me, a line he had never crossed before. But before things could escalate further, Alex was there, stepping in to defend me. Looking Dylan straight in the eyes, I found my resolve. "The problem isn't that you had no time, Dylan. The problem is you expect everything to happen on your terms. It doesn't work that way." With that, Alex and I turned and walked away, leaving Dylan and the past behind. As we walked, I felt a sense of closure. A chapter finally concluded, allowing me to fully embrace the present and future with Alex.